So today we're going to start with the second unit, and in this unit we'll be mostly studying about the transistor modeling. Like for example, if I talk about a simple transistor, this is how a transistor symbol is drawn. Now, always there is a confusion for the students, like whether it's a NPN transistor or PNP transistors. Fine, BJT stand for, this transistor is again coined from two words, transfer of resistors, meaning from the impedance to the output impedance, there's a gradual shift. Okay, the change in the resistances. So it is transistors. Fine. Now, why it is referred to as bipolar? Because here the current conduction is due to both the holes as well as electrons. So name bipolar, holes as well as electron. Similarly, we have MOSFETs or FET, JFET. There it is kind of a unipolar, meaning I can have the current conduction only due to the electrons. Fine. But here we have a bipolar. Here this transistor BJT can be of type NPN or PNP. Fine. Now this symbol drawn is for NPN or PNP. It's very easy to make out. Just recollect a diode structure P and N. See the arrow here. This arrow always points towards the N. Now check out for this arrow. Okay, so this arrow will always point towards the N, and transistor is a sandwich kind of a device. So this is a NPN transistor. If I want to draw the PNP transistor, then the three terminals, always you have to encircle this. So P, N, P. Arrow always points towards the N. Fine. We have got different types of transistors with the different serial numbers. For example, we have AC 127, BC 107, then SL 100, CL 100. These are the, if I want to buy a transistor, I have to give the specification. Fine. There are hundreds of transistors, different companies, Philips, Fairchild. Fine. There are multiple companies which are producing these transistors. Now, if I want to buy the transistor, first I need to decide about the application. And when I say application, I need to know what will be the output current, okay, over here, and how much is the output, sorry, this is the output voltage, and how much current is required at the output end. Even if I talk about a simple, mobile charger, at the back of the charger, fine, some details are mentioned. So you can check out today what are those details. It will have some current rating and it will have some voltage rating. So when you design any particular circuit, you have to have application in your mind. And when application in the sense, how much load is required, how much current is required to be given to that particular circuit. Fine. Now, depending upon this, once I decide, okay, I require say 10 milliamperes of current or say 1 milliamperes of current. In this subject, EDC will be always discussing about the current in milliamperes. It's a very high current for us, milliamperes. Fine. So say for my design, I require 10 milliamperes of a current. Then I have to refer to the data sheets of transistor. Now this data sheets, okay, today I'm giving you the task. Download this data sheets of a transistor. You'll get a PDF format. Now this first, this data sheet is a kind of a booklet. Fine, you can freely download this. Just Google it out. And the information, it contains tells you so many things about the transistor. First of all, the very first page of this data sheet, as I said, data sheet is nothing but it's a document of 10 to 20 pages. The very first page will tell you the physical structure of that particular transistor. If you have done the practicals and if you have taken the interest, you might be realize, right, there are different packages you get in a metallic kind of a structure. Then you have the this type of a transistor, and there are these serial numbers written over here, BC 547 or SL 100. Fine. And to identify which is the emitter, base and collector, a notch is provided. Now all this information is present in the data sheet. So if my requirement is say 10 milliamperes, and I don't, we are discussing about the application and how we go about with the design. Fine. So first we make out how much is the current requirement. Now there are, as I select plenty of many transistors, you have to just download the data sheet of that particular transistor, say ABC transistor. ABC in the sense it can be BC 547 or SL 100. So it is a kind of a document of 10 to 20 or 30 pages. Now the very first page of that document will give you the physical dimensions of these pins, the physical dimension of the structure. All this is mentioned in detail. Now why it is required? Because if you want to design a PCB, fine, we have to provide a slots or the holes here so that this can be inserted onto that particular tracks. Fine, we have the printed circuit boards. Printed circuit boards. If you open up any electronic circuit, you get these boards. Fine, these are those we have not seen. It's kind of a green in color. So if you have mobile chargers at home which are faulty or not working, or you can just open it up and see what are the components inside. You'll find a small PCB. Fine, diodes are mounted, then SCR will be mounted for current control, and some transformer will be present in that. That's why it's a bulky. Fine. And nowadays you get the transformers, this charges. So from the data sheet, I can make out what is the current delivered by this particular device or this device. So accordingly, I'm going to choose the transistors. So all this information is available in data sheet. Fine. So we have got two types of transistors, NPN and PNP transistors, and they have the different serial numbers, BC 547, BC 548. So there will be two different types. Now again, today the task is, you have this transistor SL100, you have CL100, BC 547, BC 548, and AC 127, then BC 107 and BC 108. So today your task is type out this the specification, this numbers, serial numbers in the Google bar, and find out whether it's a NPN or PNP. Right? And mostly we use these transistors in our practical setup, laboratory experiments. Fine. Now, this is a very vast module. Lots of information, lots of knowledge you're going to get from this unit 2. And it's very important that you have to, after the end of the lecture, or the slides will be presented to you all in a video form. Just go through it. Try to get used to this. The problem what I'll be facing right now is I don't know like how much of the transistor part you people have understood, because to go for this transistor modeling, two things are most important. One is how the transistor works, how it works. Okay, working of transistor, operation of transistor. Okay, transistor is denoted as Q. Okay, how it works, And secondly, a concept you might have come across is the biasing of transistors. Biasing of transistors and why it is very much essential. If these two things are known, then we can design the amplifiers. And now there are two types of amplifiers, small signal amplifiers and large signal amplifiers. Fine. Now, if I want to understand how that particular device is going to operate or it's going to behave, fine, then I need to know certain things. Now, what are the certain things? Is input impedance, output impedance, voltage gain, current gain, and we have something called as power gain, which is the product of voltage into current. So these are the four important parameters we can say. Okay. And then we have something called as configurations. What are the configurations? Common emitter, which is written as CE, common base, and common collector, which is CC, and here this is CB. Now, depending upon the application, we opt for common emitter, common base, or common collector. In amplifiers, 90% of the time, we're going to use a common emitter amplifier because the voltage gain of this common base is roughly 50 to 300. If I want to have higher gain, I go for a common emitter circuit. Now, what we mean by configuration, when I talk about any circuit, okay, let me draw this as a black box. We are not interested what it contains inside, what circuitry or what components are being used. Any circuit will have two wires for the input and two wires for the output. Fine. Now, a transistor being a three-terminal device, for our discussion, we always think of this transistor NPN. See, when you draw this transistor circuit, you have to mention four things. One is the notation. The T is used for transformers. T is the notation, capital T is used for transformers. For transistors, we make use of notation Q. Next, we have to specify whether it's NPN or PNP. Next, we have to write the serial number, the specification. Okay. And finally, we have to write the beta value. Now, this is what we are going to obtain from the modeling of the transistors. Fine. Now, for any electronic circuit, we have two wires for the input and two wires to draw the output. Now, transistor being three-terminal device, okay, a collector, base, and emitter. What we do is we make one terminal common to both input as well as output. So if I talk about common emitter, then emitter is connected to ground. Okay, input is applied between base and the emitter, and output is taken across the collector and emitter. Similarly, if I talk about the common base, then the base is connected to ground and it is common to both the input emitter and the output collector. Always remember that output is taken across the collector. Fine. Now, if I want to compare the performances of this common emitter or common base or common collector, we have to have a common platform. Then only we can compare their performances. Fine. We can understand their electrical characteristics. Now, this is what it is. Parameters. We can, for common emitter, we can calculate what is the input impedance of the circuit, what is the output impedance, what is the voltage gain, what is the current gain. And dependingly, we decide which one we are going to use for our applications. So this is the performance criteria. Fine. The input impedance of one of this particular circuit will be higher as compared to the input impedance of the other. Now, in a given scenario, the input impedance has to be always high and the output impedance has to be low. We will try to understand that. Okay, before that, some basics about the transistor. See, when we talk about any application, this transistors has replaced something else, and you might have studied this in your lower semesters. Vacuum tubes. Okay, these were bulky and they required a heating filament. Heaters were present in that. The size was big. Again, their operating voltages were large. So we in the year 1948, this transistor was invented, and the people who were involved in this was John Burdeen, Walter Brattain, and William Shockley. They are working for Bell Laboratory, USA. So it was invented in the year 1948, and this was such a huge invention. It created a big impact on electronics industry. Fine. This powered the foundation for the miniaturization of the circuit. Earlier we used to have bulky circuits. Because of these transistors, size of this entire equipment got reduced. And for this contribution of theirs, the one of the biggest contribution as far as electronics is concerned is the transistors. And because of this huge contribution, they were awarded a Nobel Prize for this. So you can understand how big this invention was. And actually, this is the device which completely revolutionized the electronic industry. And now we have in the expanding efforts, we have something like FET, MOSFET, UJT, and so on. Now, what are the advantages offered by transistor? If somebody asks you the advantage, like we don't require any heater element here. Fine, there are no heating delays. Then they are very small in size. If you've done the practicals, you might have come across the transistors, how it looks like. Fine, their operating voltages are very small. First, there are no filament, so there are no heaters, meaning there is no delay in the signal. The second um, advantage is they are small in size. So how it helps? It miniaturize your circuit. The circuit size reduces. Fine. If you just compare the earlier mobile phones and nowadays mobile phone, there's a big difference. Fine. The performance is also enhanced nowadays. Then the third is the operating voltages. The voltages at which this work are very much small. Now, why this is important? Finally, this voltage and current they contribute to the power. If I make it of very high voltages, that will simply result in the heat, and heat is given by equation I square R. Fine. So whenever we have any loss in the signal, the device get heated up. Meaning it is losing the signal as a part of the heat. Third, they consume little power. If they are consuming very less power, that means their efficiency is higher. Then the most important thing is there are no mechanical parts involved here. So there is no kind of wear and tear. They're very sturdy and they actually don't have any aging effect. So in a nutshell, I can write long life, and they're essentially a shock proof. Fine, sturdy devices, and there are plenty of other advantage offered with the transistor. Fine. This is all about the some brief introduction about the transistor. Now, next we have something called as transistor biasing. Again, you people might have studied this concept. I'll just revise this biasing because we are going to use these terms again and again in our studies. If what is the magic done by the transistor? Basically, the transistor is used as an oscillator. Transistor has got just three applications. It can be used as an oscillator. It can be used as an amplifier, or it can be used as a switch. Right now, what we're interested in understanding the amplification provided by transistor. Unit 3, we'll be studying about the oscillators in detail with positive feedback and negative feedback. Positive feedback oscillators, and here we have different 4 types of amplifiers. Now, if I want to amplify any given signal, okay, the signal strength. Now, simple example is the aerial signal that we get for television. We cannot feel those signals because those signals are very small. But then, if I want to drive the circuitry of television, fine, what it contains on that particular printed circuit board, there are ICs. Fine, ICs require certain amount of voltage. So there are these amplifiers which will amplify the signals. Now, it is not simply amplifying, but it has to be a faithful amplification. And what we mean by faithful amplification? The signal shape, the signal shape has to be preserved. This is the most important thing. Meaning, if I'm having a sinusoidal signal, then this is the notation for amplifier. Output will be amplified keeping in mind the input signal. Fine. Meaning the frequency should not change. See, when I talk about any signal, signal has got two attributes. One is the amplitude. This is the amplitude. And secondly, the frequency. Amplifier has got to do with the increasing the signal strength. When I say amplification, it increases the signal strength, keeping the frequency constant. Fine. Like for simple example is we have the public address system. Fine. A person speaking on a mic. What is that mic doing? It is capturing your sound signal or voice signal, and it is converting it to a electrical pulses, electrical equivalent signal. Those electrical signals are then fed to the transistors, and then transistor amplifies, and then it is given to the speakers, maintaining that load resistance. Impedance has to be maintained. Fine. Now, if I'm talking to a microphone and then this amplifier misfunction, meaning it is not maintaining the proper frequency, then you get that annoying sound. When you get that hum sound, so the information gets lost in this process. So when we design any amplifier, what is most important is the frequency. The pitch should not change. The frequency should remain constant. Fine. Now, if I want to boost a very small signal, okay, say a signal of a very small value, 20 millivolts, and so on. Fine. Now, what I need is the output of 10 volt to drive, say, a circuitry. See, this is the crude example I'm giving you all so that you just understand the logic behind this amplification. So then we make use of a single stage amplifier with a gain of 10. Fine. So if I apply 1 volt signal with a gain of that particular circuit 10, I'm going to get 10 volts at the output. Okay. If I'm having a circuit with a gain, say 100, Fine. This is the gain, the voltage gain. What we mean by voltage gain? It is output voltage divided by input voltage. There are no units for it. Fine. It cancels out. Now, if I'm having an amplifier with a gain of say 100, then if I apply an input signal of 1 volt, then output will be 100 volt. This is just for you all to understand. Okay. Each and every transistor has a gain associated with it, amplifier. Fine. Now you have designed say a circuit. This is VCC. And secondly, see, transistor is an active device. This is the most important. Transistor is a active device. It is not, something kind of magic. What it does is this very small signal. Now, right now, this is common emitter configuration. A very small signal which is applied to the base of the transistor, fine, is amplified by this particular transistor, and then I'm going to get this as the output. So the only magic that this transistor basically do here is it is preserving the signal shape, meaning the frequency is kept constant and is amplifying the signal. It's just like your volume control. When you increase the volume, the frequency does not change. What is getting changed is the amplitude. Fine. Now, here basically what this transistor do is it takes the DC voltage and fills into this AC signal. This is again a crude example I'm telling you. So without battery, your transistor is not going to work. If I take out this, VCC is what? A battery source. Your remote control. Without battery, will it work? No. It has to have separate excitation, VCC. Fine. So all those devices which require external voltage to operate, they are referred to as active devices. Whereas the resistors, the capacitors, the inductors, fine, they are not active devices, they are passive devices. Resistors, they don't require any separate power supply to work. Fine, they are passive devices. So now, for example, in my application, I'm having 1 volt as the input and output is say 10 volt, which what is expected. So what I do here is I have to have an amplifier, a transistor. Say I'm using a transistor SL100. Okay. See, I'm explaining this in very simple terms so that you understand. Technically, it may not be correct, the actual values. Fine. This is, I want you all to understand the logical functioning of the transistor. Transistor is denoted as Q with the specification SL100. Fine. This is the transistor, what I'm using here. Now, each and every transistor has got a certain value of gain, beta or HFE. This beta or HFE I can obtain using the experiment. If you recollect, you might have done experiment based on common emitter characteristics or common base characteristics in your lower semesters. Now, why you did that experiment? What was the need? It was all done to get to know what is the voltage gain. You remember this, in which case there are two input characteristics and output characteristics. This is the plot for the input characteristics, and here this is the plot for the output characteristics. VBE versus IB and IC versus VC. Each transistor, as I was discussing, has a gain. Now that gain can be calculated, fine, using experimental approach, meaning we actually mount the circuit, fine, we give the input and we measure the output. If I know what is the input, I get what is the output. If I take the ratio, what I'm going to get is the voltage gain. Fine. Now there are three different ways to calculate this voltage gain. One, I actually perform that experiment and find out what is the voltage gain. Voltage gain is V naught by Vi. It's a ratio. Fine. There are no units for the voltage gain. Now, if I want to find out what is the voltage gain, what I do, I just connect the circuit, given circuit. Okay. and I apply the input of say 1 volt here. Then I simply need to take a multimeter, connect the two probes of the multimeter to this end and check out what is the reading. Fine, say it is 10 volts. So practically we mount the circuit, we apply a signal of 1 volt, we measure what is the output. If output is 10 volt, that means the gain of this circuit is 10 by 1. This is one approach. Second approach is using the models. Now when the signals are very small, we cannot do this graphical analysis. Fine. One is doing the practical setup. Second, you plot for different values and then you do the graphical analysis. This is what is called as graphical analysis. And by doing this graphical analysis, I can get those 4 parameters. The parameters are input impedance, output impedance, voltage gain, and current gain. All these things are known by doing the graphical analysis. When I just vary the input voltage, plot the output, note down the output voltage, and then plot the graph. Fine. This is for one case, say IB equal to 10 microamperes. Remember, the base current is always in terms of microamperes. Don't make the mistakes. The output current IC is in terms of milliamperes. Fine. Then I change the input current to say 20 milliamperes and then I perform the experiment. This is the plot I'm going to get. Fine. So based upon the difference, I can get the input impedance, output impedance, so on. This is the rationale behind, carrying out that particular experiment. So if I want to know the gain, I can do the experimental setup and get the values, or I can do the graphical analysis, or the third approach is doing the modeling. And modeling is preferred for actually low signals. There are two types of signals: low signals, small signals, and the large signals. Small signals and large signal. The name itself tells you what will be the difference. A small signal is the one wherein the signal strength, the amplitude, the magnitude of that input voltage is to the 10% of the Q point. Now we are coming to another important discussion here, that is quiescent point, Q point. Now what is this Q point? Say for example, this is the output characteristics. Okay. I'm not able to grasp you how much you have understood in the first semester. See, the signal always travels from higher potential to lower potential. This is the ground connection. VCC is on the higher side, so signal will travel from higher potential to lower potential. If I denote this resistance as RC, why RC? R stands for resistor. C, it is connected to the collector terminal. This is the collector, isn't it? This voltage is denoted as VCE. The voltage across collector and emitter is VCE. Fine. Now, if I want to write the equation for this, then the current passing through this circuit is IC. So I can write the equation as the VCC equals to product of IC into RC into, plus VCE. Fine. What we see, if all these points are related, finally, when we design any circuit, the most important thing is your output voltage and your output current should remain constant. That is why we design any circuit. Okay, we design any circuit with respect to, or with keeping in our mind the output application. For example, if my output application can be anything. It can be a simple bulb, it can be a motor, it can be a fan, it can be any appliances. Fine. That is what is called as load. Each device, each appliance will have some resistance. Fine. In electronics, we don't draw that actual symbol for that. We just have a representation in form of a load resistance. Fine. Now, any circuit, when we design, we check out how much current is required, say 2 milliamperes, and output should be 6 volt. Now, it is the duty of a designer to make it fixed to 2 milliamperes and 6 volt. If there is a change in this current, what will happen is that your output voltage will be affected, and that is the last thing what you want. Fine. Now, we're having the output voltage VCE equals to VCC minus IC into RC. This axis right now what I have drawn is the output characteristics. Fine. In case of output characteristics, here this axis is VCE and this axis is IC. That means the current IC depends upon the value of VCE. So practically to get this waveform, first of all, I need to give a input signal to this circuit. Fine. Input signal is Vi. It will have its own resistance Rs, or we can write this source voltage and source resistance. Fine. This is the part of your input signal. So definitely on account of voltage and this small resistance, we are going to have a current going into the circuit. That is the base current. Fine. So we can control the base current by controlling these two values. And let us say this base current is 20 microamperes. Fine. If you recollect the experiment that that has been taught to you all in the class, how do I get this plot? For that, what we need to do is we vary the VCE, fine, and note down the current IC in that circuit. Fine. This is what we get, IC and VCE. So today you have another task. Just try to understand the CE configuration and CE characteristics. Just go through it. Or if you're finding difficult, just let me know. I'll take up that topic again. Fine. Now, on this axis, x-axis, the value of IC is 0. Fine. So in this equation, if I substitute VCC, here this is RC, current passing through it is IC. This is the voltage source given as Vs. It has a resistance Rs. Okay. Transistor Q, and this is the output taken across the VCE. Fine. Now we have plotted the output characteristics for single value of current IB equals to say 10 microamperes. How did I get this? I just varied VCE and noted the corresponding current IC. Fine. Now let me write the expression for this. Now there are two KVLs. I can apply KVL for the input loop. This is the input section and this is the output section. Now let me apply the KVL for the output section. So it will be applied voltage will be equal to IC into RC plus VC. Meaning if I'm applying 9 volts here, this 9 volt will get dropped across this RC and this VCE. If I apply 10 volts, then some part of it will get dropped across RC, remaining will be available across VCE. It has to obey the KVL, Kirchhoff's voltage law. Fine. Now, when it comes to a designing part of it, okay, before that, why this RC is required? See, a transistor, as I said, we choose the transistor depending upon the application, meaning how much current it is capable of delivering. Say 10, or in other words, the transistor also has a current carrying capability. A current carrying capacity or capability. Meaning if I take a single, all these wires, domestic, they are rated to carry certain amount of current. If you buy the cheap quality wires, you know what happens. Over the period of time, they get heated up, and then they catch the fire. The insulation gets damaged. Similarly, these transistors, they can carry certain amount of current safely. If you just bombard it with a very high current, then they will get heated up and they will get destroyed. They will get damaged. Fine. So how much that particular transistor can consume the current or can work with that particular current is specified in the data set, and it is given as IC max. So this is another important parameter while choosing the transistor for designing any project. What should be the IC max? My so the current in this circuit is say 100 milliamperes, and the transistor can safely carry a current of 10 milliamperes. What will happen? It will not able to withstand that much of a current, and it will get damaged. Simple thing. Fine. So how do I limit the current passing through this transistor? That job is taken care by this RC. So remember, whenever you have any resistance in any given circuit, it has dual functions to perform. First function is the it limits the current passing through the circuit, and secondly, it drops the voltage across it. Remember, these are the just two things your resistor does in any given circuit. The first is it limits the current. Now, what how can I limit the current? If VCC is 10 volt, fine, and the resistance RC is 1K, then what will be the current in the circuit? I will be V by R. So it will be 1K. So it will be 10 milliamperes. Fine. Now, if I voltages are normally fixed, we can't change the voltages. Fine. Voltage is say now change to no voltage is fixed at 10 volts, and the resistance is now say 5K. How much will be the current? 10 volts divided by 5K, 2 milliamperes. So from 10 milliamperes, we have dropped the current to 2 milliamperes. Fine. So the current limiting, the function is done by this resistor. So when you have any circuit or when you're working with any project, make sure that you know the function of each and every component. They are not simply connected for no reason. They have some, tasks to perform. This basic information is very much important. When you talk about any higher circuit, what are higher circuit? They are just, the building blocks. It is composed of certain blocks such as amplifier, blocks such as, impedance matching devices, and so on. Fine. Now, on this axis, VCE, sorry, IC is 0. Fine. So on x-axis, IC is 0. So if I substitute in this equation, what I get is VCE equals to VCC. Fine. What is VCC? VCC is in our case, it is a battery voltage. Normally, it is for SL100, we use 6 volts. For BC108, we use 9 volt or sometimes 12 volt, depending upon the input signal. Now, you see, it is a multiple of 3. Why? A battery, a cell, we get it of 1.5 volt. So it is always a multiple of 1.5. Fine. 6 volt, 9 volt, 12 volt, 18, 24, and so on. So this is how the battery is represented. Collection of individual cells. Fine. Next, on y-axis, the value of VCE is 0 here on this axis. So if I set VC equal to 0, what I get is IC equal to VCC by RC. Now these are the two important equations. Now what we can conclude from this, if input signal is 1 volt and the gain of the circuit is 100, I will not get output as 100 volt. Why? Because your output is limited by the battery voltage. Battery itself is say 12 volt. If it is 12 volt, you're not going to get 100 volts out of it. Theoretically, anything is possible. Practically, it will not. For example, if I'm a very small signal, a sinusoidal signal, and if I give it to an amplifier with a very high gain, okay, theoretically, I can draw. This is what I'm going to get, very high signal. But then you have to also check out what is the VCC applied. VCC is say 9 volt. Then you will not get the signal over and above 9 volt. So this is what you are going to get. See, in the bargain, what you have done, you have converted your sine wave to a square wave. Is it a faithful amplification? No. So designing is the most important. Fine. Now, VC equal to VCC. That means the output voltage VCE is the output voltage here. I can get the maximum output voltage equal to VCC. You cannot get output voltage greater than VCC. Remember, this is what is explained here from mathematical point of view. So let us take this VCC is equal to 12 volt. So if I set IC equal to 0, the voltage VC will be 12 volt. I cannot get output voltage greater than VCC, remember. And what about IC? The value of IC depends upon the value of RC, because VCC, as I've said, is always a constant. RC can be 1K or 5K and so on. Now, if I take 12 volts as VCC and RC as 1K, then current will be 12 milliamperes. So I'm going to get this. IC max is 12 milliamperes. When I join this is what is called as DC load line. DC load line, and this intersection point is Q point. Followed. So your signal this is a very small signal in terms of 10 microamperes, but then if you project on this line, this is the output current you're going to get out of it, and this will be the output voltage you're going to get out of it. Now see, here this is just 10 microamperes, but then current is in terms of milliamperes. Even if this is say 6 milliamperes and this is 4 milliamperes, the lower limit, so the total current is 2 milliamperes. So we have amplified a signal strength from 10 microamperes to 12 milliamperes. Fine, this is what is called as current gain. Voltage gain is say 20 millivolts, and from 20 millivolts I'm getting a signal of say this is 2 and this is 4. Difference is 2 volts. So output is 2 volts, input is 20 millivolts, 0.02 volts. So you can make out it is amplified by 100 times. Fine. Now why all these things are important here? This value of Q depends, meaning this point should not shift. If it starts shifting, then I might get this as one case. See, first of all, when this Q point CC will remain constant. Fine. By chance your RC changes, then it can come here. So your all entire design has gone faulty. So now this is what I was trying to explain. Fine, the SL100 has a gain of say HFE value equals to say 125. For this particular value, we are getting this as an output. Fine. Now say after some time your transistor stopped working. Fine. So what you do, you just get another SL100 and you're going to replace that faulty transistor. But now the catch here is that you are not going to get another transistor, even if they are belong to the same specification. This beta value you not get the same, because this value of beta, the gain, depends upon the thickness of the base, which is 6 micrometer, something like this, very small. And so far this technology has not been developed to keep this value a constant. Even a small minute variation in the physical, small minute variation can have a big difference in the value of beta. So if I change the transistor, my output is going to get changed. So it is another reason why this output can get changed because of VCC, but we are not going to change the VCC. With the temperature, you have studied, with the temperature, the minority charge carrier current increases. They have a big role to play here. Then if the temperature changes, then we have to provide some kind of mechanism that output remains fixed irrespective of whether I change the transistor or if the temperature is getting changed or some voltage set of voltage values are getting changed. Fine. Output should remain constant. And whose job is that? That is the job of a biasing circuit. So this biasing has got certain things to perform. and it depends upon the Q point. Now I have as a task, I want you all to understand why bias a transistor. Second task is selection of operating point, that is Q point. Third, need for bias stabilization. What is the need? Why we go for bias stabilization? Then fourth, requirement of a biasing circuit. What all is expected from the biasing network? Then which are the different biasing circuits? The different biasing circuits are fixed bias circuit, then there's another collector to base bias, then we have self bias or emitter bias. Next we have voltage divider biasing, and all this biasing, they can be compared based upon the stability factor. There is something called as S, then we have a stability factor S prime, and third we have a stability factor S double prime, which I assume that you people have studied in the first semester. Fine. Now lots of things for you all today. Okay, next uh, let me explain you a basic amplifier, how amplifier works. Fine. Is a whiting. Now, if we know the relationship between the collector current and the emitter current, we can easily understand the transistor amplifying action. Fine. So it is transistor amplifying. This is what we will try to study now. Say for example, you are having a transistor of type NPN. We'll mark this as, okay, let me complete the circuit first. I'm using a common base circuit. So base is made common to both input and the output. This is the transistor. Fine. And I'm not using any biasing circuit as of now. So when you see any resistors near about this transistor neighborhood, they are the biasing resistors. Right now I'm not using any biasing resistor. This is the load resistor RL. Fine. This is how the output is denoted, and let us say input voltage is 200 millivolt. This is the notation, plus and minus. Fine. Now we'll consider a transistor can work in active mode, cutoff mode, saturation mode, and inverted mode. There are 4 modes. For amplification, transistor has to be operated in active mode or active region. Okay. Now again, a task for you all to know transistor, what is active region. Now, if I make use of a active region, then IE is the leaving current, I IB is the entering current, IC is also entering, IE is leaving current. This is the notation. Fine. Let us mark this RL as 5 kilo ohms. Fine. Now, what we need to do here is to calculate or find out the value of output voltage. Now, if you recollect the characteristics of common base, this is how it is. Fine. Input characteristic, VI versus IE. VI characteristics, VI is this current and VI is the applied voltage. This is what we're going to get. It's just like a diode, isn't it? NP. Now, this slope is large. Fine. It's almost as good as 90 degrees. So from this slope, from this graphical analysis, we get the value of Ri. Now you see this slope is very large. Now this slope can be very large only if this Ri is very low. So this means the input resistance of transistor is very small and the input resistance is denoted as Ri. In simple words, if I look from this end, from the input end and check out the resistance here across this and this terminal, then that resistance is referred to as input resistance. Fine. This is the characteristics for output. This is input. Now here the slope is nearly equal to 0. So slope is nearly equal to 0. That means the value of R0 output resistance is high. So let us assume this resistance, it can be any big value. We can say R0 is 1 mega ohms. Fine. Now check out the output voltage now. In case of input voltage, Vi equals to Ii into Ri, and we know that input current in this particular case is the emitter current into Ri. Fine. From this, I get the value of IE as Vi by Ri. Vi is 200 millivolts, and from the diode characteristics, you know the resistance, input resistance is typically 20 ohms. Fine. We'll say this as 20 ohms. So divided by 20 ohms, the answer is 10 milliamperes. Okay. Now we already know that IC is equal to alpha times IE plus IC BU. This is the leakage current, which is a function of temperature. So this is very small as compared to this value. So we can ignore it. We can neglect it. So I can write IC is equal to alpha times IE. So, and if you recollect your basics, this alpha is in the range of 0.95 to 0.98. Fine. So in that case, I can write IC equals to IE. So IC can be taken as 10 milliamperes from this expression. Fine. IE is 10 milliamperes. And further, what we say IC is as good as IE is 10 milliamperes. So the output voltage V naught will be equal to what? The current IC passing through this wire. So whenever we have a resistor and a current passing through it, then it will drop a voltage which equals to I into R. So I can write this V naught as IC into RL. And what is IC? 10 milliamperes. How much is the load resistance we have considered? 5 kilo ohms. So output voltage will be 50 volts. Fine. And what was the input we have considered? Input is 200 millivolt. So definitely there is an amplification from 200 to 50, a big value. Fine. So voltage amplification, the voltage amplification will be what? V naught by Vi. And what is V naught? 50 volts divided by 200 millivolt. So you can check out how big this number is.